Welcome back to Combat Mission, where we're going to go over how to play against another human being using turn-based play-by-email, or PBEM. This is a pretty old school way of playing multiplayer that takes a bit of getting used to, but it's got some advantages over other ways to play. The first thing to do is to find somebody to play against. If it's not someone you're already in contact with, then places like the Combat Mission Discord, the Few Good Men, and other Discords and forums are the place to look. If you've got Combat Mission Cold War and the PBEM Plus system, then you can look for challenges there. Once you've gotten an opponent and you've hammered out all the details of the battle you want to fight, one of you needs to set it up. So, for example, if we're going to play the Alamara scenario in Combat Mission Shock Force 2, we go to Battles in the main menu, find the Alamara scenario and click Fight. Then we pick the side we're going to be playing as. Let's say player A is going to be the Blue Force, and then we get to the game options screen where we can select our mode of play. In our case, 2 players email, or if you're on PBEM Plus with Combat Mission Cold War, 2 players manual PBEM. After that, we get taken to a password screen. You don't have to put a password in. The game will accept nothing as a password, but obviously it's there for a reason. It's to stop your opponent from loading up your turns and seeing what you're doing. Once you press OK, the game creates a save. You can rename this whatever you like. We're going to keep it as Alamara, and because this is file number 1, it's got 001 on the end. When we save that, we get sent back to the main menu. This is where we need to start moving files around. So our file 001 has been saved to our outgoing email folder. On Steam, this is in Steam Apps Common Combat Mission Shock Force 2 Game Files Outgoing Email. You can really easily get to the game folder by using the launcher that comes with the Steam version. If you're not on Steam, what you're looking for should be in your Documents folder under Battlefront somewhere. Now, what we need to do with this file is get it to our opponent. Originally, this would involve literally emailing to them, hence play by email. These days, it's much easier to use something like Dropbox. This is the most commonly used one in my experience. That's what we're going to use here, but obviously the internet's a big place and there's loads of options out there. In Dropbox, we need to create a shared folder which both players have access to, and this is where file number 1 goes. Player B then takes file number 1 out of this folder and puts it in his incoming email folder, which is in the same place as the outgoing folder. Then he boots up the game and finds it in his saved games. Clicking Fight here takes us to the password setting screen for player B, in this case the Syrians, and we get the same process as before. Once we set the password, it generates another save. This time it's file 002. Player B then takes that out of his outgoing email, puts that in the Dropbox folder, and player A takes it and puts it in his incoming email. When player opens up the file and puts his password in, he's greeted by his briefing screen and he can go through the deployment and his first turn orders. Once he's happy, presses the big red button. This generates file 003, which he puts in the Dropbox for player B. Player B opens that up, sees his briefing, does his deployment, does his orders, presses go. Both deployments are now done, so player's B game calculates what happens in the turn, and then it generates file 004. So you can kind of see how this is going to pan out. Player A opens file 004, he can watch the turn, do his next orders, and then send file 005 off, and it carries on like this until the game is over. Once you've got used to this, it's very straightforward. It might seem long-winded and clunky, but it's not after you've been doing it for a while. There are ways to speed it up and minimize file handling. I've got shortcuts to the Dropbox incoming and outgoing folders on my desktop, and I just swap the files around. There is a program around called CM Helper, which moves the file automatically, and the new PBEM Plus system automates the file movement and storage using Slytherin's servers instead of Dropbox, so you don't even have to leave the game. So, that is a quick walkthrough of how manual play-by-email works in Combat Mission. Multiplayer is the best way to play Combat Mission, in my opinion. Humans are a very different kind of opponent to the AI and much more interesting to fight against. Hopefully this has helped make CM's admittedly antiquated but entirely functional play-by-email system a bit more understandable and a bit less daunting. It is a bit more time consuming, but at the same time it's a different way to play than what you might be familiar to if you're coming to Combat Mission from other more up-to-date RTS games. So this is not sitting down on an evening and playing a whole game with somebody. This is sitting down on an evening and doing a turn or two, depending on how fast the return rate is. Combat Mission is super detailed. It works much better when you take your time. So you can play into that and say, do a turn or two each night with your opponent after you've come home from work, then that's the better way to play, in my opinion. Hopefully that's explained it a little better. That's the general gist of it, and I'll see you in the next video.